I don't like videos that have a long introduction of the YouTuber and their channel, and that take minutes to explain in detail about the content that I'm about to watch, especially if the video is just a few minutes long. I made 3 videos this far, but I still feel like I have no idea what I'm actually doing. If I watch my videos, I feel they're still a little bit boring, they have a very abrupt ending, and they somehow don't really feel complete. Another thing that I realized while editing was that I don't really know when I'm done. And maybe that's why my first video was, I think, about 8 minutes long, and then the next one was maybe 6 minutes, and the last one was only 2.5 minutes long. Because while editing, I was getting to a point where I was kind of annoyed of the process and I didn't feel like doing it anymore, so I just decided just stop here and call it a day. So I decided to take this day and learn more about video structure and planning the video. Now here are some things that I came across that I don't want to include in my videos. I don't like stiff openings or introductions that feel like I'm listening to a school presentation. And the same thing goes for talking about the outline of the video. Because if we are watching videos, we are creating what psychologists call a parasocial relationship with the presenter of the video. That means that if we as an audience watch countless hours of YouTube videos or television, we create bonds with the people we are watching. They become part of our life, even though they don't even know that we exist. But they still feel somewhat like friends to us. And if I imagine I'm going to a coffee shop with a friend, he doesn't have to introduce himself again to me. And he also doesn't have to tell me in advance what we are going to talk about in this conversation. So how do I want to plan my videos? Some advice that I found quite helpful was to first start with the idea and then brainstorm what you want to talk about in your video. After brainstorming, you can put these things into an order and create an outline. With the finished outline, you can then decide what kind of shots you want to film or include. Then, after watching the A-roll, you then decide what other material you need, like B-roll and graphics and stuff like that. Some other useful tips I found were, for example, to start with the ending and work your way backwards from there. Then the known concept of show, don't tell. That means show what you're talking about or what you want to show through video instead of just, like I'm doing right now, talking into the camera about experiences. To have an exciting video, you should have some form of conflict or a question that is asked at the beginning of the video and then resolved during the video. And to draw the audience in, you shouldn't just have it factual, but add an emotional layer too. About the structure of the video, it is a good idea to start with a hook, even before the introduction, which, as I mentioned earlier, shouldn't be too stiff, too formal, or too long. Then comes the main content part of the video, after which, in an ending, there can be a recap or some final thoughts about it. And then there's often something that is called a call to action, like telling the audience to subscribe, to like the video, or maybe to go out and buy the book that you're publishing. The structure is something you've probably came across during your school days, because it's pretty much the same when writing an essay or something like that. And about storytelling, there can also be a story arc or an arc of suspense. That starts with a setup or the stasis. That starts with a setup or the stasis, Then some inciting incident or a trigger happens, which sets the character into action, which is then the next part, the rising action or the quest. The climax is the main point of the story, where the tension is the highest. The climax can either end in success or in failure. After that, there's a falling tension part. And in the end, there's the resolution or the closure. Now these parts can be a bit tricky to include in every video, but if you're, for example, shooting a documentary or having a longer video, it can be a good idea to keep that in mind. So I spent pretty much all day yesterday just editing the footage I took on day 4 and watching tutorials on different subjects. So I learned about sequences of B-roll clips, how to add text to your screen. Oh yeah, and I downloaded yet another editing software, because the one I was using for my second and third video just were not really a joy to work with. So I looked up another one, and yeah, I gotta say that one's much better, but also a little bit more difficult to get used to, and because it just has so many more functions, and I still need to find how to use them and where to find them in the software. So the whole process of editing and producing the videos has gotten a lot more difficult. That's why I took a few days this time to produce another one. But I still think it's fun and I want to keep doing it. And I also think that with the process I laid out in this video, it feels a lot more like actually, you know, having a plan what to do and not just winging it can help preventing that feeling of being lost at sea while being right in the middle of a process. Watching the footage I took 2 days ago, I still think it's very stiff, very presentation-like, which is exactly what I'm saying in the video what I don't want. But yeah, that's probably something I'm going to work on in the next video, next few videos, trying to be more natural on camera and maybe having a bit more energy and stuff like that. One thing that still scares me a little bit because of how technical it is color grading, but I think that's what I'm going to look into next, because it has a tremendous effect on the video quality of your clips. Psychologist, so sexual.